Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hytale Roundtable. It has been a minute, and I mean a long minute since we've done one of these, but we had 4 huge blog posts, and so I brought 4 huge content creators to the table, to the roundtable, to hang out with me tonight. We have got, for the first time, face reveal and all, we've got Fezzy, we've got TheLividLion, we've got Knight from Black Plasma Studios, and of course, we got our good buddy, Thirtyvirus. Guys, what's going on?
Hey,
how's it going? Long time no see.
The awkward hellos out of the way. Let's get right in. Guys, this is going to be a long-ish stream. I always try and keep these to an hour. It's not going to happen. There's 5 of us. We got comment sections going on. This is not going to happen.
So much
We're going to roll, grab a drink, grab a snack, hang out with us for the night, and let's just talk about some Hytale. So let's kick it off. Fezzy, as the new guy, you get the first question, and you and me, we're grumpy Gusses. We're critical of these guys. That's just who we are as people. But the hype was dying, right? Communication was bad. The game just was not trending anymore, and then they just released 4 blog posts. So has Hytale redeemed themselves? Is this a good way to go into 2020, or are we still skeptical?
So, okay, so the thing is, we kind of have gotten a similar sounding in tone blog post like 3 months ago, 4 months ago. They were like, hey, so like, we're, you know, that one blog post where they were talking about upcoming challenges sounded pretty similar to this one in certain contexts, not fully. But I think it's nice that they're at least acknowledging it. I know there's a lot of studios out there that wouldn't, and it's nice that they do, but it doesn't change the fact. I'm going to be reiterating a lot of what I said in my video, but I'm going to like it still doesn't change the fact that they have been silent for so long. So I think we have to wait and see how they handle transparency going forward, because I think that's going to be a big dictator as to how their release is going to be. Because, you know, we got a while to wait now. You know, before it was in the air. Now we know we've got a while. So we gotta see how they're going to push forward with it, I think.
I mean, 4 blog posts, it's just a lot for one day, right? It was right before the holiday. I had actually said to TheLividLion the night before, I was like, dude, I bet you they're going to drop all of this content the night before a holiday. I'm pretty sure all of us were up late, or most of us were up late. I know Livid and I were up till like 4 in the morning trying to put content together. I'm sure you guys were too. But, I mean, what's the strategy? Is there a strategy anymore? And Fezzy, I'm going to bounce it back to you one more time to continue. Is there a strategy with any of this? You know, we've both been pretty critical of their communications team. What is the long game?
Honestly, it's tough. It's tough to guess. It's tough to see. I think the long game for them is going to be trying to find a fine-tuned balance in between spreading too little information and too much. I mentioned that there's an extreme on either side that would get people mad. It's hard not to reiterate what I've already said, because it's I mean, I think this theme is going to be said a lot throughout the night, is that it all depends on their communication. It all depends on how they're going to take the next year, maybe even longer, because we've heard 2021, not early, not middle, not late. We don't know when. So it really depends how they're going to take it, because it can be, like this is probably the most critical time for the game. This can be where it flops or where it flourishes, I guess, because this can very well be the death of the game, I think, if they just go completely silent for a year. But if they figure out that sweet spot, I think they'll be okay.
Right. All right. So talking about 2020 and 2021, we do finally have a release date target. Now, Livid, this one's to you. What are your thoughts on that 2021 target, and what does that mean for 2020? What are we going to be doing in 2020?
For 2020, I made a speculation on that already, saying that it would probably be, so if 2021 is their target release date, even though we don't know if it's middle, beginning, or end, it's going to be, if it's 2021, the earliest we would probably see a beta of any sorts, because I know everybody's wondering when that's going to happen, would definitely be Q4. That would be the time that the beta would drop if it was early 2021. It's usually about a quarter out of time is when they usually drop betas for games, because it gives them a whole quarter to kind of bug proof, go through all the different things that the community finds and fixes. But there's going to be, during that time when a beta drops, they're not looking really for feedback on to change whole game systems and whole designs and all that kind of stuff. betas are there just to solve bugs and really fine tune some things. So that's why like we're not going to see that until close to release. So if it is early 2021, you can expect it in Q4. So, you know, November, December. But if it's later, we're not going to see beta till 2021. That's my take on it. So.
And one of the things that they talked about, you know, you mentioned bugs, you mentioned feedback, things like that. One of the things they said in this set of blog posts was that they were going to actively be seeking out feedback from the community. Now, I sent a tweet out to Noxy. Yeah, Noxy didn't respond to me, but maybe one of you guys can jump in. What do you think that's going to be like? And you know, feedback from the community, I think we've all seen in the comment sections of our videos and on Discord and on Reddit, there is a lot of good ideas. There's a lot of bad ideas too, but there are a lot of good ideas out there. How are they going to effectively roll out some sort of feedback campaign to get the rest of the community into the fold about, is this going in the right direction or is it not?
In the last video, I was like, it'd be a good idea if they made a whole blog about proposed changes that they went forward with. I don't know if that comment on their blog was in reference to us, but if so, then that's good on them, because in a way they already did implement feedback. But I think the best way to organize it probably would be, in terms of keeping the hype alive, would just be like, hey, these are the guys that had this idea, and we decided to go forward with it. And they would have like a whole bunch of things showing like the before and after, maybe some blogs. Also, I apologize for the audio quality. I'm at home with family. Of course, this happened the same night.
Hey, day after Thanksgiving.
I went on a train at 4 a.m. and I got 4 hours of sleep. But we're here now.
That's terrible, but you're here, and I appreciate you being here.
You're
so thank
here.
you. All right, does anybody else,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to give up on 2020, 2021 quite yet. Anybody else want to chime in on the target release date? That's a big reveal, right? Telling a community, hey, this is it, line in the sand, as I said in my video. That's a big deal for all of us, players, creators, animators, YouTubers, it doesn't matter. That's a big deal. Anybody else have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so when they first released the Hytale trailer, what I thought of it was, like they say and they stress again and again, they're really just like a group of modders that tried to make their own game, and they really didn't expect for the game to be as big and well received as it was. So then they had to like take a step back, and as modders and people who'd never experienced something like that before, like personally when working on a big animation project, I thought it'd take me like 2 or 3 months. Once I started getting into it and getting into the technicality, my first one ended up taking me 9 months, and that was way longer than I expected. And it's the same concept, though it's slightly different for them, but it's the same concept. They've never done this before. Things are going to take longer than expected, and we'll see that in other games too, like especially in alpha release. A good example would be Star Citizen. They're like, oh hey guys, we're gonna have all this content and we're gonna have all these really cool features, and we're gonna have like these salvaging and mining and like this update in 2018. We're sitting like late 2019, we haven't even gotten half that stuff yet, and that's because things take longer than they expect. So yeah, the earliest I would expect a open beta or even an alpha or something would be at the very earliest late 2020, but I really wouldn't expect anything till.
That's a really good direct comparison though to Star Citizen between Hytale, because both of them are using custom engines, right? So they're building all their stuff from the ground up. So you know, when it gets, I mentioned this as well, like when you get into developing a game, it's one thing to have like a system that's already well documented, tons of people use it. If things go wrong, you know, you can push changes to that really quickly and solve for those problems. But when you're completely making an engine from scratch and you are literally pioneering in that direction yourself with no reference, it becomes one little hiccup in development can push things back months at a time. So it's understandable. It's understandable.
Experience with that,
it's understandable why things get delayed with that.
So there is a huge risk with a game that has this much hype for a lot of different factors. And the one I want to focus in on is that either closed or open alpha, closed or open beta. We had when the Reddit was a lot more popular and trendy, people were talking about what's the right way to approach an alpha or beta. And again, the attention will come back. As soon as Hytale says, hey, we're going to start an alpha, we're going to start a beta. I mean, right, that was a big pitch of their initial launch, was their website saying, hey, click here to sign up for the beta. How are they going to avoid a pitfall of, if the game's not ready or not close to ready and they do some sort of open or closed alpha or beta, how are they going to avoid any sort of pitfall, right? Because if we all go into the alpha and no matter if all of us make videos saying the alpha's it's not a complete product, it's not all there yet, it's still got room to improve, people will judge and have that initial reaction off of that experience, right? So what is their right steps that they should take? You know, obviously there's a lot of development. They got to keep the communication going, but I'm looking more towards the end of 2020, long term out. How are they going to avoid pitfalls in an alpha and beta process, or what does a good alpha and beta look like?
So I think for this, what they're saying more is that they're going to stress like, okay, but at first they weren't keen on showing us stuff that was still in development because they're like, oh, this isn't polished yet. This can't be released to people. And again, with the comparison to Star Citizen, they refuse to release anything that's unpolished or like not completely developed because they want a nice, clean game. But I think that the steps they could take now, and what I'm really glad, I'm sure we'll get to it later, they even knew it to be analyzed a lot too, they said so in their blog post, is that combat post that they did, about 36 seconds long, where they went through, they were killing stuff. I think that their opportunity now, they've used their second chance token, as I said, and they get 1 second chance with this, but if they can keep consistent with showing us, hey, here's like a proposed game feature, here's how, if they're very open with the community beforehand, before an alpha or a beta, and we're able to give feedback on, then I think there'd be a whole lot less risk and a lot more potential for a really big and successful like open beta once they get, as long as they're just continuing communication and being open with us and letting us really see what we're getting into instead of kind of keeping it a secret like they have.
Right. I mean, we've seen on Reddits and Discords and whatnot of other games that have been very transparent. Livid, correct me if I'm wrong, Remnant was very open and honest about when we were playing their game. They were super communicative. They said, we know about these issues, we're fixing them, as opposed to the Cube World Crisis, where the game came out, it was a disaster, and he said nothing. I mean, again, it's a team of two, it's him and his wife, I get that. They said nothing. So it's as simple as communicating with your audience, saying this is what's going on, X, Y, and Z, or not, and then they are filling in the gaps, right? We spent a lot of time filling in the gaps, and a lot of people spent a lot of time filling in the gaps in a really bad way. And I've said this to them, they have a communications team, use it. Don't show us, you know, their polished stuff. Show us that half-baked stuff and say it's half-baked. We're all smart. We know it's half-baked. We can communicate that to our audiences and our friends. But anyways, all right, so let's talk about some of the stuff that was actually in that blog post. And 30, I'm going to bounce it to you first. Graphics, they are taking leaps and bounds. They are far and away taking risks when it comes to graphics. They're using that custom engine that Livid mentioned before. What was your initial reaction to some of those graphical reveals and the technology that's going to be powering the game?
I love all of it. I think it looks really great. I mean, every screenshot looks like something that could be used as like a wallpaper, honestly.
For sure.
I do have a lot of criticisms of the team, but content and especially graphics is not one of them. Like, I don't know, man. Everything about this game looks insane.
No, it was just my gut reaction, and maybe I'm totally off base here, but after seeing all those graphical improvements, I actually thought the character models looked out of place. Like, I just thought they looked ridiculous next to all of this beautiful ambient occlusion and bloom and light shafts that they're showing up. And then you've got this like flat-faced character walking through a field. And I just, again, I'm not a techie guy. I don't know that's the inner workings of it. But do you think there's going to be more improvements that we don't know of yet? Do we think the graphics are going to keep going forward? And what would that look like maybe?
I think in terms of graphics, we're pretty close to where the game itself will be. I mean...
Yeah.
It looks fairly finished, but yeah, I do agree the characters do look a little out of place. But I mean, with that one screenshot with the dude holding the axe and he's got like the mustache, it looks, you know, it's not apparent to me that it's like completely out of place. Although it is, you know, the first thing you see when you look at a screenshot is immediately the dude's face.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know if the lighting effects are bouncing off of the character. That might be why it looks a little out of place. But like if a shadow goes over half a character's face or something, maybe that. Yeah, considering from a programming perspective, having a shadow on an entity that's moving is not easy.
Yeah, I think.
But then again, the underwater screenshot does have those light rays interacting with. Oh.
Sorry. Just knocking shit off my desk.
You're good there.
I'm good. I'm good. Keep talking. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
But I think there is some.
Sorry. Told you it was gonna be a long night. Ooh, okay, we're good. We're good.
Just
we're good. It is a round table.
Yeah. The chat has a point. It does look like your background's moving. It's like really cool.
It is moving. It is moving. It's a video clip.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a green screen. I see.
Yeah, buddy.
Anyway, yeah, so the lighting does appear to interact with characters. So maybe it's just it's like this effect. I think in like think it's in like Hawaii. The sun could be completely like right above you and nothing has shadows and it looks fake. I think some of these screenshots might be taken from a perspective where there's no shadows on the player, and that's why it looks out of place.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, Livid, you were going to say
Otherwise,
something
I
about
think it's
graphics?
fine.
No, I was gonna say exactly that underwater screenshot. That's one I definitely wanted to bring up because it shows that
Yeah.
lighting and shading on the character, and
Definitely
it
does
looks so
interact
much
with the
better
character, yeah.
there than it does in other screenshots.
Right.
Well, something that
Yeah,
I
like
can
the one right above it looks a little weird by comparison. I don't
Yeah.
really know why.
Yeah, the reason I think that is because I can attest to this because I used to have a really terrible system. Dynamic lighting on players, specifically shadows, are tough on performance, and I know Hytale kind of touts this, more even optimized than Minecraft. Like it can run on a machine that isn't very powerful, and dynamic lighting is hard on systems that are low end, and shadows on a player moving, that's tough. So I think the reason that it's not very apparent is because they don't want to push it too far to the point where like an APU can't run it, or integrated graphics can't run it. So that's why I think it looks that way. I think if they push it any further, they're going to have like disclaimers saying like, if you are running lower end systems, you might not be able to run this, or something like that.
I think the functionality is probably there. I think they're the public screenshots that everybody can expect to see for the when they're playing the game.
Yeah.
I think these are the ones that they want to make sure it's clear. Like this is all totally possible, and then there might be improvements.
All right, taking a small pivot to Knight really quick. As an animator, as somebody that's already working on some Hytale content, what have you seen in the graphics side that has either inspired you, had you excited, got you concerned? Is there anything that's going to directly influence the way that you create content as an animator?
So there's actually a lot of things that, especially in this graphics update, change a lot, because now, like with their new engine, with all this nice bloom and all these nice volumetric rays coming through the holes in the ground, making it look really beautiful, that's all stuff for a game engine that's really impressive. And for a game that's not a AAA game, that is literally just a team of developers, that's super impressive for them to. Because even in Blender, which is the 3D software that I use, creating those takes a lot of time and takes a lot of computing power. Like I have a really powerful rig, and even that struggles to handle rendering out images like that. So for them to be able to do that, it's really cool. But it also pushes my team personally. It pushes them a lot harder too, because now they have this higher standard to get up to. And me personally, who's going to be doing a lot of the animation and pretty much all of the lighting and like visual effects, that sets a higher standard for me. But I also think it's really cool that they're striving for like this level of quality and to make this really awesome looking game, as contrasted to Minecraft, like their predecessor, very blocky, very rigid. Yeah, you have like a sun, a moon cycle, but you really don't get much with the game. And the only way to experience it in kind of the way that you see Hytale now is with shaders, and those aren't very well optimized at all. And you can't run those on potato like they're trying to get their engine to run on.
Right.
So yeah, I think
is there something in that's what they've revealed that's going to make your life easier, or is it just going to set the bar higher for what you need to try and create in Blender?
A little bit of both. So some things that make it easier is, again, the more that they reveal, the more we're able to like closely, because all that we have to go off of, especially we're trying to build everything from scratch, because that's all we can do, because we don't have any assets or anything. So everything that they're revealing gives us a better and better picture of what we're working with, what textures we have to work with, what their style is, how to better mimic that. But at the same time, it's also saying, hey, this is the quality bar that the game's going to be at. You have to be at that or past it for an animation, because I mean, that's just typical. If you're working in 3D, you're going to want your thing to look really, really good. And especially with like these, on that post, there was one post especially where they had like lighting coming through the windows and creating these soft shadows. That was really neat, and that's definitely going to set a really high standard for my work for sure. But yeah, it's definitely really inspiring to see this like already just in the game engine. And then honestly, I think it's more of a motivator than anything for my team, because now we're like, look at this awesome standard that we have. That's what we're working towards, maybe even past it a little bit. So I think it's more so a motivator than anything.
Nice. All right, let's pivot over to one of the subsystems that we learned a little bit about in the blog post, which was farming. Fezzy, I'm going to bounce this over to you. I know you and 30 both are very familiar with the concept of farming, whether it be this type of farming or other types of farming. So, you know, what was your reaction to the system? Is it getting you excited for the subsystems? And what is something like farming going to need to do? What are the boxes it's going to need to check to be successful in kind of connecting other subsystems together?
So farming in games, Skyblock has taught me that it becomes very important if you have a very reasonable payoff for doing it repeatedly. Like, okay, so to put in perspective, Minecraft, right? You farm a carrot, you get it, and you eat it. That's all it's worth. But like in Hypixel Skyblock, because this is like the most farming in Minecraft I've ever done. You can get those carrots, and they're not just used for eating or for maybe making a different food once. You can use them as other crafting recipes for other items that help you farm more. So you can kind of focus on a skill and make that like, so your playthroughs are different every time. And this kind of applies, this can apply to any system. Like, you can balance yourself to be more combat than farming, or more farming. And maybe the payoff for that is because you have so much more food. If there's a villager type system in the game, you can sell food for some kind of currency or something. It seems like it's all about payoff for farming in video games, because a lot of times I notice people, well, like in Minecraft, people make farms, like, you know, the big automated farms, I think more so to say they made a cool automated farm than the actual usefulness that the farm gives you.
Yeah,
and I think
I'm a redstone engineer.
Yeah, I think Hytale has an opportunity to make it so farming actually means something more than just like, I put a seed in the ground, I can eat what comes out of it. I don't know how they'd want to go that. Like I said, there's skill systems and stuff they could tamper with, but right. I think if it adds some dynamics, so you can kind of play through different runs of the game differently.
Right. And I mean, if farming is... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, 30. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I could cut in with the a specific example I love from Skyblock, specifically pumpkin farming.
I don't want to know about your pumpkins.
Okay. I'm in like I think I'm in the top 200 on the network right now. Anyways, but what makes pumpkin farming in particular cool, and I think a concept that could, you know, translate to Hytale, is how there's so many uses, again, Fezzy said, with crafting. So like when you get 4 stacks of enchanted pumpkins, which is 4 times 64 times 160 pumpkins, you can craft them into boots, which allow you to run fast. And that speed scales with your farming level. And the more farming you do, the faster you get. And the faster you get, the faster you can get farming levels. And also, outside of farming, you can use that speed to kill things really, really quickly. So, I don't know. Things like that, again, help with farming faster, but also can have a use outside of farming, is really cool. And I like that. I love that. It's one of my favorite items in the game, is the farmer's boots. And that's
one of the things that's so interesting, you mentioned kind of, you know, and I've only played Skybox for literally like an hour, and I was so confused, and I was just like, you know, I literally just need like 30 or Fezzy to walk me through this shit, because I didn't get it. And I'm such a rookie when it comes to all this stuff. But somebody mentioned Stardew Valley in the chat, and I'm just going to throw out some ideas and concepts. So Stardew Valley and farming games in general is actually one of my favorite genres of video games. Harvest Moon when I was growing up, Stardew Valley in, you know, 2010s. The concept of farming, you mentioned payoffs. For Stardew Valley fans, like quote-unquote end-game Stardew Valley fans, the payoff is creating a farm that fits your mental image of that farm, right? You want to create this beautiful place. It's not about having the most money. It's not really about reaching some sort of end-game experience. It's about, can I create the thing that I want to create and make it look a certain way or whatever? Kind of similar to Minecraft in that way. But where I start to, and there goes my face cam, but where I start to... That's what happens when you use a DSLR, just like on a 5-minute loop. It's so annoying. But where I start to change away from that is where they talk about their inspiration from World of Warcraft, where all of the systems have to be connected together, which is kind of what Fezzy and 30 were talking about. I don't want to just farm pumpkins to infinity and beyond for no reason. I also don't want pumpkins to equate to boots. That makes no effing sense, and anybody that thinks it does is an idiot. Okay?
Well, I have a response for that.
All right, hold on. Let me just finish my point. Crafting is a great way to get people to do faction rewards. It's a great way to interact with alchemy and other sub-professions, if you will. So one of those subsystems, in my opinion, farming, should somehow equate to something else, whether it be alchemy or probably not blacksmithing, but or cooking. You know, it should obviously connect to somewhere else. Because if it just ends, and it just ends by you doing farming 500 pumpkins and making some boots, that's fine. That's great. But it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean?
Nice socks. I grew them.
Yeah, I grew these socks.
So I actually have an idea for that, and I get that. It makes no sense. Skyblock doesn't make sense, but that feature can go deeper. So like I watched a video a long time ago about somebody talking about Minecraft farming and how they should implement things, and this would connect to other systems. So fighting obviously takes stamina. Now, in real life, you can get sick if you have low quality food. If the food isn't taken care of, if it isn't, if it rots, if you eat it rotten or whatever, then you won't have as much stamina. If you're sick, you can't fight, right? So the thing is, in Minecraft, the only thing they have even close to that is like you eat a raw chicken and get hungry. That's all that happens. But in Hytale, they could make it so you have to care about your farm, and that way, if like you said in Stardew Valley, the end game is to make this big farm to however you picture it should be, right? And with Hytale, you could have that similar kind of thing where you make a farm, but it's not just a giant farm you can make boots with. It's a farm that you can, it makes good quality food, which means that your stamina is higher or it lasts longer, so you can fight better, faster, longer, whatever. Food, farming is important in real life, and consumption leads to literally every other system, like fighting and jumping. If you make higher quality food, like example, someone mentioned in the chat that you can stick in Minecraft 300 pigs in one 2-block spot and just slash at them.
You're breaking my immersion by doing that.
You get no punishment for that. In real life, if they did that, first of all, they get arrested, and second, low quality.
Lock them up.
It would be low quality food because it'd be disgusting, and if you ate it, you would probably die. But in Minecraft, you can do that, and you're fine. So, like, if you keep animals too close to each other or something, maybe there's waste. I don't know. It makes the food quality less. And you get sick, and you can't fight as much. You can't swing as fast. But
let me just cut in for one quick second, Fezzy. What you're describing makes farming almost mandatory and pretty deep, which is something I think they're trying to avoid. So how would you make that system still relevant? But if somebody like 30 doesn't care about farming and doesn't want to farm, how would he, as the casual player, how would he get around that and still have it be a thing?
Well, all you got to do is not break violation and keep your pigs more than one block apart.
Damn it, 30! You and the pigs.
Minecraft's farming in most situations is fine. Like if you have the crops aligned next to a lake or something and you grow them, that's fine, and that takes just as little effort as it does in Minecraft. But there's things that that slide by in Minecraft that's just goofy. And if they kind of fine tune those things, it doesn't have to be a mandatory thing. You just have to not stick everything right next to each other, and you have to, you can play it just like Minecraft in that sense, even because like if you just do the same thing, you have your crops watered, you don't shove all those pigs next to each other, you'll be fine. The quality will be fine. It won't be like Ark, where like if you kill something, you have to build a fire immediately out of sticks. You have to punch trees for it takes a lot of effort in a lot of games. Yeah, but you can have it like Minecraft. Just make it so the players are enticed to explore how much further farming can go. Because say you want to put in the extra effort to make higher quality carrots, then that's great. You'll have more stamina than other players. You'll be able to swing faster. You have enticement to do it, but it's not required for the storyline because you don't have to, but it'll make it easier along the way, I guess.
What if it was more buff based? Kind of similar to the way that World of Warcraft treats it, where you can be a chef. I mean, cooking is so required for endgame World of Warcraft, but it doesn't equate to stamina or hunger or thirst. It doesn't have any of those survival components to it, but it does give you an incentive to do it, right? So if you're going to increase my spirit or increase my stamina as a baseline stat, that makes sense. It means, 30 doesn't have to farm any pigs or pumpkins, but if Knight wants to do it, he's going to get some benefit from doing that. But he's spending his time, he's making that decision to do it. 30 is deciding to put his time somewhere else. So, it always throws me off the survival component of it, right? Because I know how it should work with a buff system and giving people, baseline stats or some sort of added bonus. But if there's a survival system, having food and water is almost required, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it is in Minecraft, but they make it so menial that all you have to do is just quickly.
It's just kind of annoying.
Yeah, it's more. It feels more of
It's
a.
very brain dead.
It feels more of a chore than a game system.
Ran for too long. Got to eat a steak.
Yeah. Where I don't know. Maybe there's certain foods if you do it the right way that makes your saturation or whatever that would be in Hytale last longer, so you don't have to eat as much. I don't know. I think it could go deep. I think any system could really approach it in that way and go deeper than just like you said, I ran too far and now I gotta eat, and that's all it's.
That makes no sense.
And they don't have to make it so annoying that like it just feels like a chore rather than a system and stuff.
For sure. All right, so let's pivot to the big talker of the blog post, that 36-second clip that Knight brought up. And Livid, you've been quiet, so you get to talk about it first. So, what was the big takeaways for you from that gameplay clip?
One of the biggest takeaways is that they drop weapons that you can use on kill, like more so than just like we're used to in RPGs and MMOs and stuff like that. You kill an enemy, you loot the body, you get some stuff that you can use and stuff, but you actually have to physically go pick it up. The interesting thing was like you kill a sorcerer that's there and he drops his spell book, and all of a sudden now you have a weapon that's immediately in your hotbar that you can use and experiment with. And judging by how many different weapons they have in this game, over time, that's just it constantly makes the game more interesting as you're exploring, especially with friends. All of a sudden somebody gets a cool thing and you see like a projectile whiz past your head that you're not going to recognize for the first few times that you're playing. You're like, oh, what's that? It gives that kind of discovery a whole nother kind of level. That's like the big thing that I really appreciated from there. And then that and the varying levels of the bare bones that we're kind of seeing with combat with the light and heavy attacks. The heavy attacks seem real punchy, and that kind of like kinetic and like audio feedback that you get from that feels
Sound
really
design was
good already.
awesome.
Yeah, it
Sound
feels
design
really
was
good.
awesome.
So like if this is just like a small baseline of where they're at and there's still more to unveil about it being even better than that, I'm really excited because it already looks really smooth.
So before we go around, because I want everybody's hot take on that, I just want to talk to you about the idea of picking up weapons or items from enemies almost every time, right? That creates inherent problems, right? Bags being absolutely flooded with useless gear, things like that. So how do you temper that experience? How do you make it so that's meaningful to players but not overwhelming?
I have a point on that if you want.
Yeah, go for it. Jump in.
Okay, so one of my favorite games of all time is Fallout New Vegas. I've said this like a million times. And in that game, everybody drops weapons, everybody drops armor, and the way they counter that is with a durability system and repairing things together. I love that idea, and actually in this, if you look closely, there is durability on that sledgehammer and that sword. So what I'm thinking is, as you pick up weapons, you should be able to, repair them together. And, it doesn't have to be that complicated a system. Maybe you just press a button and it adds durability to the main weapon from the secondary one that you picked up. I think that's a great way to clear up inventory space and still, get value out of killing every enemy, because it's like, hey, this is like 5% durability on my main weapon.
Now,
So
would that work as, so say, I'm a few levels higher than the dungeon or the content that I'm doing. I have a great weapon that I don't want to use. It's got the stats I want. It's got the attributes that I want, whatever. And I'm still having to just pass over all of this nonsense. Would those weapons add to my current weapon's durability, or are you saying they would only compile within themselves? Oh, there's the cat. I knew it. I knew there was going to be a cat here.
There it is.
Fezzy, that was a deep question that you just interrupted with your cat.
I can hear you again.
So are you saying that the spell book that it's okay. So that like the spell book that you pick up, if you're using that one and then you pick up 3 more, is that going to add to durability of that? Or say I'm using this awesome like frost scythe and I'm picking up spell books, is that going to add to my frost scythe? I'm just trying to figure out how it's going to work.
the way it worked in Fallout was just you can repair like weapons together. So if you have two hunting rifles, you repair the first one with the second one, then yeah, you can do that. Of course, you mentioned if I'm a few levels higher. Well, that concept I think we discovered very early on is at least levels, character levels, is not a thing. It's all gear related, so there's no inherent character traits.
Right, but gear wise, if I'm helping Knight out, and right, Knight's been animating like crazy, he hasn't had time to play, so he comes in, he's like, dude, I need you to just burn me through this. I burn him through it. I've got, say, a scythe or whatever. However, I mean, we've already seen there are actually a lot of weapons in the game, different types of weapons. So the idea of getting, you know, finding the same stuff outside of one little dungeon that they showed us, or one little room of a dungeon, whatever, is probably pretty rare. So again, you know, maybe there's things off those skeletons that I want. Maybe there's a crafting reagent or some sort of material or valuable item, but there's also not the weapon or spell. I don't want that. So how do you make that system seamless so I'm not sitting there? All right, sorry, I'm getting off on a crazy ass tangent here. But one of my things about the Outer Worlds that I hated so much, which if anybody played the Outer Worlds, was that I was just basically spending all of my time checking out items to pick up and putting them in my bags. How do we make Hytale not a garbage junk collection game, but an RPG MMO type experience?
So I can throw something in there if you want real quick. I think a system that solves this problem, like for the most part, is like PUBG's pickup system, where you can press tab, your inventory's there on the left. It's like, this is what on the ground, you drag and drop what you want and you're done. Because I definitely understand if you pick up a bunch of clutter, you're not going to want it. Or if there's a bunch of clutter on the floor, trying to like move your mouse just a little bit to press E on it, moving through the pixels, trying to figure out what you want to pick up is annoying, like in RL Craft, for example. I think
like in Fallout, accidentally drinking out of the toilet when you're trying to pick up
literally just having a list on the side when you press E or whatever it is to get in your inventory and dragging what you want over is a quick fix for that. It's just a good sorting system. I think that could fix that problem.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for a kind of collection and item system. I mean, you could go with the area loot, strategy. You could go with a, collect all strategy, but it all depends on what items are dropping, right? And that's always the balance of like, if I kill a skeleton, a bone better drop, right? It better be something relevant to that mob. But how do you balance so that you're not sitting there just constantly collecting items and actually experiencing the game? But anyways, we've talked a lot about loot. Knight, you saw the gameplay stuff. You already brought it up. What was your initial reaction to that gameplay? What really got you jazzed about that?
So my initial reaction was the ability to switch between weapons and different combat systems really fast. Like we saw Ninja Charlie switch from his axe to sword and shield, and we saw whoever was in the first person switch from like a sword to a massive hammer to a spell book, all like really fast. So what that kind of reminded me of was actually Terraria's system, where your class kind of changes based on what weapon you used. And I think kind of like Fezzy was saying, where if you had this way that you could almost like toggle on an ability to either pick up everything or toggle it to where you get like a list of what you want in your inventory based on like what weapons you want, that'd be really effective. And like you were saying, if someone were falling behind, another person was like a little ahead and they wanted to like help, having that ability to collect items at higher levels of different classes and be able to use them really fast would also help catch friends up. So say I want to play like a melee class, but you're playing like a magic class. And this is how MMOs work as well. And Final Fantasy, which is the one I play, second biggest in the world, they do it is they have it to where you switch your weapon, you switch your class, but you can also collect weapons and craft weapons for other classes. So you have like the team aspect. So even though you may not specialize in one thing, you can also help out your friend. So I thought all that could be definitely worked with and included with the combat system, and I was really looking forward to that. Also looked very clean, so I was really excited.
It was really clean. One of the things about that, bringing up the weapon swapping and like the idea of classes, I think we're going to refer to them as classes, even though we all know that they're not moving towards a class system. Like, so just so nobody's confused, we say classes.
Gear, yeah.
It's all based on gear.
The term is loadout, I think.
Loadout. There you go.
So it looks similar in a way. Let me, if I could butt in real quick. It looks similar in a way to how in Elder Scrolls Online, when you have a weapon, it determines like your type of attacks. So that's what I'm kind of inferring what I've seen based so far, because like you have the spin attacks, the heavy attack with hammers. The spell book seems to have a different kind of handle ability. Like it looks like what you pick up and what you use determines that kind of thing.
Right. And so one of the things based on that clip, that was a work in progress clip. Let's just put that out there. One of the things, as you're swapping through the weapons, you can see the UI kind of loadout on the bottom there. When he's got the mallet selected, right? Nothing else pops up on the screen. You don't see any additional information for abilities. So, you know, that really limits you to your mouse, right? And obviously a couple keyboard things, but how do we think that's going to play out? Do you think they were hiding elements of that? Like we saw the spin attack, you know, with the mace way back when. In this clip, we saw a few quick attacks, if you will. We saw an overhead smash type attack. How is the weapon going to define the combat? You know what I mean? How is that going to be inherent for the player to figure out and understand?
Maybe a tutorial built in as soon as you pick it up.
Like a weapon class tutorial?
Maybe something.
Well, it'd be like you pick up a hammer and then it's like, hey, do this to do this attack. Like jump
Hold in the right
as you're
mouse,
falling
charge
straight.
your attack.
Yeah, like heavy attacks and small attacks, and I mean, you know, they can make it pretty simple, so you can kind of just craft like your own loadout to what you want. Like maybe a dagger, it makes you move a little faster, or its heavy attack isn't as heavy as a hammer's, obviously, and it's a lot quicker to charge. And you can pick up smaller and lighter weapons that maybe not deal as much damage, but are faster. And you know, you can kind of cater your own. It's like an a la carte for a loadout.
How do you make that more? How do you make that unique and memorable as you get further into the game, right? So again, we know that there's weapon rarity, things like that, but how do we know that, you know, you're at the quote unquote end game? None of us know what that's going to look like or anything like that. You've got this awesome weapon, you're really into it. How does that differentiate from that same weapon class, but at the like common level? What's going to change?
Maybe you have incentive to kind of combine different, different combinations, do different things, like different weapons that you have on you can do different things with each other. Like say you have a shield and a sword, to just be super generic. The shield and the sword, you can block while swinging, but you can't do the same thing with the hammer and the shield. So you have incentive to kind of, you can lean towards a class that's a little more traditional, and it gives you some incentive. And that way, by the end game, you're very much, you look like you've been through a lot. You have kind of a perfect balance of whatever you want to lean towards. Or you can have it where just you can each level, each weapon has almost not like an actual skill tree, but their own tree of upgrading, and that way you can cater it to whatever you want, no matter if it's totally different than what you would expect it to be or not. Basically, it kind of just depends on whichever route they want to take to make it feel dynamic and make playthroughs different. Because obviously, since there's a story in this game, there's going to be speed runs and multiple runs and things where people have different classes that they started with or whatever per run. So it kind of depends on how many options they're willing to throw your way to try to not make it overwhelming and to try to not make it super like cliche, I guess.
Right, and building off of what Fezzy was saying, I think a good direction for the end game would be to have. Sorry if I'm cutting any of y'all off.
No, you're good. You're good.
But a good direction for the end game would be to have like a wide option for different moves and abilities you can use. And I noticed that in a lot of very successful like MMOs and other big games where you're able to kind of gear your class, job, loadout, however you'd like. If you want to be a more support tailored person or more healing tailored or a tank. So I think that having different, maybe even different weapons incorporated in that, and being able to play your play style and having a wide variety of different actions you can take with that play style would be a good direction for the end game.
30, were you going to jump in before? Sorry.
Yeah, okay, so this is a bit, I'm going back about 5 minutes here. So remember what we were talking about with inventory clutter? I had a brainwave as we were talking about it. The reason why in a game like Fallout it doesn't matter that everybody drops a weapon is because it's a list-based inventory. You can have 8 hunting rifles or 8 10mm pistols, and they're all just there and like in this list, and they combine. So let's say you have 5 of them if they're all the same. So I was thinking in, a slot-based inventory, like in Hytale, what if when you pick up 10 broadswords that it would show a stack of 10 broadswords, and then when you hover over it, it would show each one how much durability it has in like a little list thing.
Right.
And then you could like repair them together and they would compact it to one space.
That's not
so that
bad. I
you're
mean,
not
I kind
spending
of like
10
that because
minutes
one, it
doing
saves
that.
bag space, but it still gives you the information that you need. Like a bag
Yeah.
system isn't realistic no matter what, right? Like who's going to put all this stuff in a backpack? I got 10 hunting rifles in my backpack. It's not a realistic system. So when you
Yeah.
break it all down, it has to just be good for the player, right? Or at least what the developers
Yeah.
want based on the other systems. That's actually a really cool idea. I quite like that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm thinking like if there's a bunch of a certain item and it would just fit in one slot, except if it's the one that's equipped. So like if anything's in your hotbar, it won't stack because you don't
Right.
want to swing 10 swords.
Right, especially
So,
if there's like attributes
Or
on them or
leave.
special effects or something like that. You don't want
Yeah.
that's going to get a little confusing. But I like the idea. It's a cool idea.
yeah,
all right,
I
so
think that would be a good way to organize it.
let's pivot to another concept within the gameplay. We have seen now, it's not, I mean, it's official, but it's obviously still a work in progress, that swing speed is a thing, right? It's not going to be click as fast as you can to do damage. You know, all four of you guys are Minecraft experts, pros, whatever the heck you want to call it. What do you think, like, is that going to be a huge turnoff for Minecraft people? Is that going to be a welcome thing in Hytale? What are your initial thoughts on that one?
I guess
Welcome.
So I think a lot of people are obviously going to make comparisons because of swing speed to 1.9. Everyone hated it, you know, that kind of thing. Very, very divisive version of Minecraft that came out that tried to add some tactics to the way you fight. Swing speed isn't a bad thing. It's a bad thing when you already have a system in play. Like, okay, so this is going to get a little hazy because combat systems are tough. But I think Hytale is fine because... Okay, so swing speeds obviously are going to vary between the different types of weapons you pick up. Like if you get a tiny little dagger, you're going to swing pretty fast. And I think that's fine because the big problem with Minecraft, and a lot of people are going to draw that comparison with this blog post and be scared about it because no one wants a 1.9 problem, is that Hytale, since it's being built from the ground up, I think this system can work because it's not going to be really clunky. I think the big problem with Minecraft is that half the time when you swing at someone, it may not register, or it may register weird because it runs at like 20 tick and
Little hitbox.
little hitbox. It doesn't
Very precise.
It's very precise, and when you have an imprecise mechanic and a precise game, things clash, and it doesn't make sense. I mean, with
Also,
Hytale, go ahead.
If I had to add into with the combat systems, 1.9 combat could have been good. The biggest problem is that one, you have to aim exactly on the person with the cursor, which is a problem with swinging a sword. You know, it's a sweeping motion. You should have like a line.
Yeah, there should be leeway with it.
And the other problem is that they let you hit when the animation's not done yet. So I think a spam click system would work if it just finished the animation no matter how many times you click, and then when it's ready again, it swings again immediately.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like how in 1.8, when you can only deal damage to an entity every half second, instead you can only attack every half second. But like any clicks in between then just wouldn't register until it's ready.
And
That system would work a lot better. Right?
it would, and that paired with Minecraft's just natural clunkiness, like I said, makes it so, you know, it's boring when you have to wait for a while to swing again, and when you swing and you hit, nothing happens. Or it just does it's because Minecraft's just weird with the way it processes information, because it's very slow with that. And I think that's a big thing that's going to dictate whether Hytale's combat system is going to work or not. And this is actually something I haven't heard anyone talk about, is the tick rate the game runs at informationally.
True.
That's a
That's
big
big.
one. 20
That's really
TPS. Minecraft runs at 20 TPS. If you ask anyone in any esport, they will tell you that is actually terrible.
All right, hold on. Step back. Explain to people who may not know what ticks are. Explain quickly what that is.
You're right. So a tick is basically a packet of information being sent to the server. Like, it's the communication
It's
between
how
your
often.
client and the server. How often? It's usually in hertz because, you know, frequency. So
Times per second is the unit.
20 TPS means 20 packs per second sent from the server or from the client to the server. You know, it's communication. And Minecraft is really slow because it wasn't designed to be a PvP game. It was designed to be, you know, I farm and I hit a zombie.
Mhm.
And because of that, this was actually a really big problem when Black Ops 4 came out. it was running at 20 TPS, the same speed Minecraft runs at. Everyone hated the game because nothing was registering correctly. Big deal with Minecraft and the PvP community, because a lot of people complained about knockback being weird or hits being off. Hits won't register if there's not enough information that the server's reading. And if that's higher in Hytale, things are going to feel much cleaner, even if the combat system makes you wait, because things will register when they're supposed to. I know this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's really important for a combat system. So I think that's going to fix a lot of problems, because I'm sure Hytale's it's more modern, obviously, than Minecraft, so it's probably going to come with a higher tick rate, which I think will fix a lot of the problems.
Combat was also combat, from that one clip was also very satisfying. I think there is a visceral reaction to combat that we know when we get good combat. I don't think anybody would say ever that Minecraft combat was good. It's workable. You can do it, but it's
very
not
stiff.
It's stiff. It's not satisfying. I mean, if we think about the games, I know Livid and I are both playing Star Wars Fallen Order. It's satisfying combat for a number of reasons. And that's what I get when I look at this. The Hytale combat that they just showcased it looks satisfying. I mean, you knock a skeleton, it impacts another skeleton. There's sound effects that reinforce the behavior of the weapon. The animations are fluid. There's weight to all of it. But that's what has been missing, and that's why I think that 1.9 problem, or whatever it is, 1.19, I don't even know. It's not really relevant. It doesn't parallel well to what we just saw in Hytale, because there's so much more. There's so much more depth already to this Hytale combat. But I do want to continue in talking about your reactions to this gameplay clip. 30, you are up. What was your reaction to seeing this 30-second gameplay clip? What were the big takeaways?
I mean, it looked very smooth. Everything looked very satisfying, and I mean, it almost looked like, I think the way everything reacts to getting hit is very satisfying. One thing I wanted to add from the chat as well is that people want the ability to dodge. You know how, like, in Minecraft, you click, the damage happens, it's an instant. But it'd be kind of neat if, like, in the game, when you go to, the animation starts, you see the person swinging their sword, you could, like, dodge almost, maybe. If you're fast.
Adding on to that, at the very end of that clip, we saw Ninja Charlie did something where he blocked with his sword. I thought it was at the very, very tail end, but it looked like he was doing some sort of blocking action. So that it does look like they're going to have something like that involved.
I don't mean to interrupt, but someone's confused in the chat because Minecraft doesn't make sense. So someone mentioned that when they change the tick rate in Minecraft, wheat grows fast. There's two different tick rates in Minecraft. One is a world tick rate, and one is a server. The one we're talking about, the server, the world tick rate is how fast the time moves. Just want to clear that up. Sorry.
Yeah, there's three of them. There's random tick speed with props and stuff like that, and then there's the speed in which time changes, and then there's how often the server and client exchange information, which cannot be changed. That one is 20. Without mods, it's 20. But,
sorry for derailing your conversation. Someone was confused.
But anyway,
I missed it. I'm sure it was a great answer, though.
In terms of that clip, it does look like there's like with the animation, it does have like a starting point, but the actual damage happens somewhere in between the beginning and the end of the animation, which I think is a good sign, because in competitive, that means that you have the ability to block, because you can see them pulling back their sword, and that'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, it's when the frame makes contact, it's right when it should be.
It's less obvious with the dagger, but you can definitely see it with the hammer, that you can, the animation's half done before you even see the hit particle thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, someone also pointed out collateral damage is a thing. Someone hit a skeleton into another skeleton and it did damage.
Yeah.
Which is really
beautiful.
Cool. I just want to point that out. That is really cool.
That might have been a visual thing. I think maybe both skeletons were within the range of the swinging hammer. But considering this wouldn't be the first time, there might be some Hytale people watching this. If you want my opinion, I think ragdolling enemies into other enemies would be not only hilarious, but really
that would be awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
If a body fell on something and then that took damage, that would be really funny.
It definitely was from collateral damage. It wasn't from a hit, as I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it was a little
you can see the skeleton.
Yeah, it's a little further back.
One.
It definitely is him flying into
You can see it bounce into it, and the other skeleton jolts. It's real. That's a great attention to detail, by the way. If there is a Hytale,
if that is what happened, then that is really good. That
So
is
what
cool.
things-
That's really cool.
Physics engine.
Obviously, this is a work in progress. What things
Yes.
do we still need to see from combat after seeing this clip? Like, try and be critical. I know we all want to be like, oh, this is great, it's combat, yay, we're so excited. But take a step back. What are the things that we still need to see from the combat perspective that would really take us over the line and be like, this is good combat, right?
Stamina.
Stamina.
Definitely stamina. Yeah, I see a health
I
bar
want to
there.
see some.
but
I
don't
want to
a
see
stamina
some
bar.
faster paced gameplay. This is.
Also-
I know he's wielding a heavy weapon.
Big
but I think
thing
we kind of need to have a
for
faster.
that they need to clarify is if the PvP is going to work, or sorry, combat is going to work different between players and mobs, because it works different in Minecraft.
Oh, true.
And they haven't clarified that if this combat looks like this on mobs or different on players. This is cat number 2, by the way.
Hey, cat number
Hey.
2. Listen, don't eat it over your shoulder. We know how that goes on stream. It's not good.
I'm setting him down, I'm setting
Just
him
don't do
down
that.
carefully. I'm not doing that. All right. He goes off camera, but I'm setting him down carefully. He has to go over this cord, so it's a little cumbersome. But like I said, in Minecraft, for example, combat reach is also different between single player and multiplayer. So they need to tell us if there's a difference, because if there's not, then maybe people will complain if it's a little too slow. But if there's a difference, they should probably just mention that. I don't know.
Right. And I mean,
Yeah, we
2020
also-
is going to be a lot of clarification for PvP, right? We have not seen. We all know Hypixel is a big PvP. They've got a lot of stake in the PvP world, but they have talked virtually nothing. They've said virtually nothing about PvP. 2020, I think, is going to be a very clarifying year, obviously, for the rest of the systems. But PvP, they need to start defining and talking to us about and how those systems are going to change based on, you know, player versus environment content or player versus player content. That's going to be a big sticking point for a lot of players, I think.
Yeah, I think also one of the big things that we also still haven't seen that they definitely need to reveal is like in-depth detail on the magic combat. Because like if you look at the bars that they have above like the health area, which first of all, there's a big thing about the health that I have a problem with. It's regenning even during combat, which I have a little bit of an issue with combat wise, especially if that leads.
There
into
probably
PvP.
should be a little bit of a delay. Well,
Like,
there's
yeah,
a delay, but
I
there should be a
don't
bit
like-
more delay.
See,
I don't
that
like
might
health
be a
regen at
difference
all,
between
personally.
single player and multiplayer, though.
Yeah,
We don't know.
'cause I don't like health.
Yeah, we don't
regen.
know a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
But,
once they get that more developed, they'll like talk to us more in depth about it. Like,
Yeah.
hey, this is what we proposed, and again, comes with this is their last chance really to be more open with us. Which I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful. I think that they will fall.
Uh-oh.
Well,
Oh, I thought I lagged out.
Rest
I
in
was-
peace,
I
Night of
like
Doom.
that too.
We're
oh
at-
no.
All right, well, we got this great thumbnail.
Yeah, somebody cap that. Somebody put that as his profile pic.
One detail I
Yes.
want to ask though, I don't know if we should wait for him to come back. We probably should wait for him.
I'm not touching anything
Anyway.
on my end, so hopefully he comes back, because if I touch everything,
I'm
everything's
just-
going to get messed up. It's not going to be
All
pretty.
right, was there anything
As-
else?
As a little side thing to keep us distracted, what are your thoughts on critical hits?
I would
Important?
be okay with them. Yeah.
Important, but has to be done right.
Yes, the answer is
Should it be
yes.
a percentage
It has-
chance,
it has
or
to
should
be
it be
done-
like?
It has to be done in a special way. I actually think this is one of the highlights of Minecraft PvP. I think the crits in 1.8 are pretty good. Like, you have to jump, you have to get some, I mean, there's no momentum really in Minecraft, but you have to feel like you're getting momentum to actually hit a crit. I think that would be great. That it would almost be kind of like a button combo thing where
Oh, no.
Oh,
Oh, no.
All right,
hold
everything got
on.
mixed up.
All right, hold on. You know what? Guys, here's what we're going to do. I'm still in the middle, so it's good. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Put your questions. It's 10 o'clock now. We're going to keep the stream going. Put your questions or comments or whatever in the chat. We're going to take a quick break, get all the technical stuff figured out. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about questions. We're going to take some user comments, things like that. So we'll be right back. You guys don't, in the stream, the dudes I'm talking to, don't go anywhere. Wait, stop. The stream was muted. We have to go backwards. We have to go backwards. Stop.
Oh no.
Chat, stop it. Stop being mad. Here we go. We're starting again. So this
guys,
stop it. Stop it. You're all so mad right now. Everybody's mad. I'm not mad. I'm happy. Here we go.
wow.
No, we're fine.
Okay.
I get it, chat.
All right,
I get
we're
it.
back
We're
to
muted.
the
It's
first
fine.
Classic
You
game.
got to go back
over.
to page 12.
All right.
5 minutes did not happen.
All right, let's just remember that
Rewind.
this is all Night of Doom's fault. All right, this is not
Hey,
my fault.
hey,
This
whoa,
is all
whoa,
his
whoa.
fault. None of this would have happened if it wasn't for him. All right, it's all his fault. So we're going backwards because yes, I see you guys in the chat. I see you. You're telling me I was muted, and so is the rest of them. So we're going backwards. This first question, it's the first thing we're talking about here, comes from Freddy XL, and he's talking about regeneration. I'm pitching it over to LividLion. Regeneration by food or health items or healing items. What do you think?
Yeah, so my opinion on that is I don't think health regen or those kind of sorts of like regen, like if there's mana and stuff, should be based on food being eaten. I think that should be limited more to things like potions, since we know there's going to be an alchemy system, and I agree that it's more of like a mystical thing to have like health regen. I think food should be limited to giving you long-term buffs, almost how you get from like World of Warcraft, like MMOs of the sort. They don't really provide regen to a degree. They give you more of like base, like here's an extra bit of strength, or here's more health pool to work with, or that kind of thing. That's where I think that would work well, especially for cooking, because you know if you farm a bunch of stuff that's high tier and you cook it really well and you have this cool dish, you get a ton of extra health, you know, going into combat. I think that would be a cool thing and would work really well with a health bar system versus how Minecraft has just individual hearts. You know what I mean? I think that would work pretty well.
So to run it through again, I don't know if like I agree with you, right? But I don't know if we want to go quite as far as like COD 2, where you just don't heal without like a med pack or something, because then it would become annoying, I think, and that would kind of be more suited for like a hardcore mode. So I don't know how would they make it so, like, would they maybe have like just a really slow regen, or
I think if you're in combat, there should be no regen. That's how I think.
Combat.
Oh,
regen,
If you're
definitely.
out of combat, then regen can take.
no, that's okay, never mind. That's sick. Never mind.
Okay,
If
well,
you're
that's
full
like
and
that.
if you're out of combat, it should be like slow, I think.
the
Okay.
curveball to this is something we haven't talked about, which as a former, you know, try-hard World of Warcraft player, we've not talked about healers. Are there going to be healers in this game? Are healers
I hope
worth
so.
it in this type of game?
Oh, I 100%, yeah.
I mean, because
think
that's what combat healing is. You have a class or a character that's put resources into being a healer, so that potions and food don't really come into play in the combat sense. They're more of preparation, right? Or oh shit
Right.
moments, right? You pop a potion as an oh shit, like in World of Warcraft. Perfect example. I hate to keep bringing it up, but that's a great game. So I mean, it's a great game. It's a great game. You get it once in combat, right? You get it one time. It's your oh shit button, and then after that, you have to worry about your healer. MP5 and HP5 really aren't a thing. They were at some points in World of Warcraft, but if you're in combat, your healer is designated to keep you alive. You should never be able to pop food, like sit down, grab a plate, and eat some pumpkins in the middle of combat.
Hold on,
It doesn't
guys,
make any
fight in the
sense.
spot.
Yeah, let me just pause combat for a second. Eat some pumpkins.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think there will be
it's
healers
annoying.
purely because
While you're at it, wear a machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think it would also
people
encourage
gathering
people
sucks.
to play with more people for
Definitely.
like the story, because that way you could like say there's this boss and it's tough to do solo. You're like, hey, I need a healer. You want to like hop in real quick, and then there you are. Because
that'd be great.
this game's going to have nat punch through or UPnP, so people are just going to be able to hop into your game. So I think that'd be sick.
But how do you do that and still, how do you have an effective healing system, but also have all of this content be soloable? That's the thing. And it goes all the way back to the interview that we did with Noxie. Like, all of this content is soloable. So how do healers fit into a soloable content picture?
Well, healers, if you want to make it soloable, can have like a buff, like a passive, where they regen faster. Or you can maybe take the healer, like say they have a book or something, say it's a shaman and they're more magical. That book that we saw in the combat might have a spell in there where you heal, but that sacrifices a time you can take to deal damage.
Yep.
So
That's what
it could work like that. I think that could make sense. That way you can make it solo, and that book would have more than one use.
I'd have those things tied to, like I said, like everything's tied to weapons. Like what you have determines your skills that you can use. So if you keep like a healing staff in your bar or a healing book or something that you find, like it's an even more incentivized loot option to find things like that. So it gives you more things to chase for, and it also gives you an ability to solo content by just swapping through things on your bar.
You'd be
100%.
okay with a system where you could just quick swap to a healing item and be a healer? You'd be okay with that?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, because that takes away from
Yeah.
the time you can punch. So
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
And who's that kid in the chat? He's like, healer shouldn't be an I win button. And definitely, like, what typically goes along with healers is less damage output, a lot more vulnerability in exchange for those healing abilities.
Right.
So yes, you're gonna still be able to do stuff, but it's not going to be as overpowered. You're not going to be able to have the same output as other classes per se, but you're more of like a support role, and you could still do stuff soloable. It'll just take longer as a healer, and I think healer would be better in like a team dynamic versus like a solo class. And I think that things being soloable also kind of depends somewhat on how they're going to approach combat. If there's going to be like telegraphed attacks that you can dodge as a solo player, or if it's going to be more up in your face kind of hack and slash block, and then how you're going to do healing and recovery through that. So a lot of unknowns, but there's a lot of directions they could take with that.
Right.
And if you really want to drive it home, so it's healing like is not an I win button. When you're healing, every hit that's hit on you is critical.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
This is
something like that, yeah.
Yep.
Vulnerability.
I mean, that's kind
That
of the
way-
definition of a critical hit is because you're vulnerable. So any
Vulnerable,
hits that
right.
happen are
Right.
critical.
Right.
Yeah.
So it would make sense.
And just so everybody, I saw a couple things in the chat, so I just want to make sure we all know that there's no classes. We keep saying classes because one, they haven't said because they haven't told
I
us
think if
what
we say
exactly
loadout,
it
it
is.
would cause
It's a
less
loadout.
confusion.
It's going to take us a
Yeah.
long time to mentally. We're all
Right.
not that smart. It's going to take us a long time mentally to get to a point where we stop saying classes because we all come from. There goes my camera again. Every time I'm freaking talking, there goes my camera. We've just been so conditioned as players in MMOs and RPGs that classes is a thing. So when we say classes, we mean loadouts. We're talking about a gear-based system. Just so there is no confusion, we are very well aware that a class system is most likely, if not guaranteed, not to happen.
Correct.
So let's quickly talk about bosses. We didn't see any bosses. We didn't see any like end game high tier content in that regards. We saw, two guys going after some skeletons. How
Yes.
are they going to make what we've seen in combat effective in a boss fight?
First thing, 30's deaf right now, so he
We
won't
lost
be able to respond.
30. He's out.
Secondly, so wait, are you saying like how to make it more like variety?
So say
Or-
they walked into the next room and there is a boss there. Is everything that we saw in the combat system going to translate into a boss fight? Well,
I think so.
you
I
think
think
so?
we've seen some. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit
Depends
more
on the
added to it.
structure of the boss. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause we
think-
didn't-
I think so.
I mean, Knights mentioned telegraphed abilities. We didn't see any telegraphed abilities, really. We didn't see reticles on the ground. We didn't see long casts, anything like that. So what are some of the systems that they're going to need to implement into the game to make boss fights, knowing what we know about combat, effective and I hate to use the cheesy word, but immersive?
We saw telegraphed a little bit with the spellcaster.
A little bit.
We do. We see
little
the
tiny
lines
bit.
up. I
Yeah, and
think
even in
that's-
like previous
that's a
clips
good
that we've seen like wind up and then like pulling attacks or like about to go and attack something. So that is kind of like a telegraph.
So we're thinking to step away from the reticle on the ground or big cast bar on the screen. We think it's going to be a
Right,
more
definitely.
dynamic
Yeah.
combat.
I think it's more dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, in terms of, and this is just based because I'm so interested in this idea, we talked about soloable content versus group content. This is the first time I've had you guys all together, so we can talk about this. How do we make meaningful, quote unquote, group content? How is a boss going to change if one of us is going at him or 5 of us is going at him? How should it change?
If you want a quick fix, do what a multiple MMOs do, where if there's more people, the difficulty scales up, or there's more enemies, or they have more health, or they deal more damage, or all of the above. But if you want to make it all one solid experience, that gets complicated because it's
Definitely,
it's all fine tuning and balancing at that point, I think.
Right.
So
But nothing to balance off of in terms of class structures, right? So you're balancing off of weapons, you're balancing off of number of people. If we're just doing health and damage output, that's not going to work. And it doesn't work. We know it doesn't work and it's not good. If we're just fighting bosses with 5 of us and it's just a big damage sponge, I'm going to drop you guys like a bad habit and just go at it solo because I know I'm going to be able to do it in 1/5 the time.
Right.
So how are they going to do that?
Give incentives for playing with teams, I think.
yeah, because like we kind of like touching on that before with the healing guy being more of a team player, maybe having another passive where my audio just cut out. Maybe having another passive where it heals in a pool or something. I think that makes sense.
Do you think abilities need to change for, like say on a soloable boss, it's just a single target ability, but with 3 people or more or whatever like that, it's going to turn into an AoE ability. Do you think the dynamics of the actual fight need to change, or do we think it's just a scaling thing?
I think dynamics need to change.
Yeah.
personally.
Dynamically, yeah, at least slightly, yeah.
I mean, because we know that there's gonna be a giant spider boss, right? We know that's a big thing, and it looks like that's themed for different areas, so there might be different variants of it. I don't know
Right.
if the combat will be different, but I just imagine something that's that large, like you make the limbs of it the parts that you have to target. You know what I mean? Like maybe they'll have targeted areas that you have to hit. That might be a thing.
Right. And we didn't get a great taste of that in the gameplay clip, but we did
Right.
see that the hit detection is a lot better than a game like Minecraft. There is the
Right.
possibility of doing something like that, right? A bigger enemy with more parts. It's definitely possible to do some sort of, extremities, durability, or health system where you're chopping off legs of a spider or, arms of an outlander. It's possible from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, because we know things slam into each other, so we know
Right.
there's collision.
Right.
So-
Which- that's a huge
That
deal.
could be huge because in a boss fight you could be enticed to use the environment to hit
Yeah.
things.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like,
And
yeah.
they said that
Find a
the boss's
block to try.
arenas would be like static and indestructible.
Tailored, yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
Their
that'd be
fight.
sick. Actually, that'd be almost like a Half-Life kind of approach.
Yeah.
That'd be really good.
Yeah, I mean, you make the arena based on the fight to either aid or hinder the player, as opposed to, I don't know if that environment we saw was destructive. Was there anything in there that was destructive that we saw?
Technically,
no,
yeah,
it
but-
didn't.
Okay.
Dude,
So, and that may change the way we approach things too. That wasn't a boss room, so maybe that's just an area or an under. Again, it's all
Right.
work in progress, so that may change.
Right.
But to tailor those arenas based on the actual fight and how many players or weapons or whatever, it's definitely a cool thing to think about, especially knowing that collision is a thing, right? That's a big part of piecing together this puzzle.
Yep.
30 brought this up while we were on break, so let's talk about it. Stealth systems. Still haven't talked much about stealth systems. Still haven't heard much about a stealth system or seen it. So 30, just give us your hot take. How is stealth, or how could stealth be implemented into the game well?
Okay, so for one thing, these died. The headset running out of battery. So I've been on push to talk. I don't know if you guys, when you speak, if the speakers like reverbs.
No, you're good. You
But-
sound good.
That's fine.
Okay.
I mean, you sound like shit, but that's a whole nother reason.
I mean, okay. So I'm thinking it would be really neat if there was a stealth system in this game. I think there was a clip earlier where it showed zombies getting kind of startled, and you saw like the special animation. Same with the Trork, I think, with the food. So there
Yeah.
definitely is some form of attention, but I think to compound that there would be a crit system if you get a sneak attack. I think that'd be really neat. It would promote being sneaky. And yeah, I don't know. That was something I brought up during the break, and I think it'd be kind of neat. It was some
That's
way-
more dynamic to the game, yeah.
And if you want something even kind of to put on top of that, because in a lot of games, like say if there's a guard that walks past you, they have a flashlight that's supposed to signify their field of vision. Maybe there's a perk or something. This way, there's more team players and stuff. There's a perk that someone can have where you can see that field of view. You can see where their alert status is, and you can kind of weave through them or something and maybe get some of those crits. So
Right.
I think it could go pretty far, to be honest.
in
Since
some way
we're-
to
They could
tell
do a
that
lot
you've been
with this game,
spotted.
yeah.
Yeah, since
Yeah.
we're touching on the idea of aggro, right, in threat, if you look at this clip again, if you guys pull up that gameplay clip and you look very quickly, you will actually see that Ninja, who is closer to some of the mobs, he actually runs past them with all three of the skeletons on the left side of the screen running directly towards whoever the main player is here.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And I didn't pick that up until right this second, but aggro and threat is a big issue when it comes to group content, obviously. But I didn't pick that up, and that may be just because he doesn't engage with the enemies, right? So the enemies
Right.
immediately engage with him because he's the one that attacked first. But that's an interesting point.
Well,
Maybe
they
there's
see him
something he's
before
doing
he
because
even
if you
attacks.
notice when he runs out, his character does something. Maybe he's hiding himself. I don't know, because his character runs out almost covering his face, but it might be just
Yeah,
blocking.
he blocks. He blocks.
Right,
Oh, he
yeah,
is
yeah.
blocking. He is blocking. Yeah. But then he runs past. You see that skeleton in the far back left, beeline for the main character there. So it's interesting.
Oh, you know what I bet?
Yeah.
I bet the AI is supporting a damaged AI.
Right?
I wonder
'Cause
if
we know
that
they
could
live
be-
together.
yeah.
I wonder if it's deep where like there's if it's this deep. Okay, this is speculation. This is big speculation. But if the AI is sophisticated enough, it can tell that skeleton just got attacked by this player and wants to go help that AI, and
Yeah,
so
maybe.
it's going to beeline for the person attacking it as a support AI. I don't know.
Yeah,
That could be
no, I mean, we
Yeah.
we had that whole custom interactions blog post way back when, where they said that mobs are going to interact off each other in their environment. So that's a great point. You know, Propsy goes in there, and I see you guys in the chat correcting me. It's Propsy goes in there, smacks somebody, and then that guy in the way back's like, my buddy's being hit, I'm going for him, and Ninja Charlie just keeps running, and he just keeps going. That's
That
good.
way-
That's
that would
really
be
good.
treating and hurting. That could be sick. If that's actually how
Right.
that works, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen that. I mean, even in Minecraft, the one mob that has that is zombie pigmen. They just leave you alone, and then you hit one, and then they all like, you hit one of our buddies, we're all coming after you. And even in other games, I don't know if World of Warcraft has it, but I know Final Fantasy sometimes, if you hit like one creature and there's a couple of the similar type around them, you'll see like them get alerted, and then they'll come to help their buddy to try to fight you off.
Right. Yeah,
So
the
it shouldn't be
evolution
too
of
awful.
the evolution of this is now, okay, so Propsy gets those 3 guys on him. What if he needs help? How does Ninja get the aggro back if he needs to? Is that a
If
thing?
he's the healing character, you can heal him. Or maybe there's a system like, now this would be even crazier. I'm telling you, speculation.
We're in the
maybe-
speculation zone.
Speculation.
Maybe there is a system in place that's, because someone said Hytale voice chat. Now, I don't know if it's been confirmed or not. Has it?
I don't think
I don't
so.
know.
Actually,
But
yeah,
it's been confirmed not.
yeah, no in-game voice chat.
Oh, because I was about to say that if there was, there could be a system kind of like in the forest where if you yell, they hear you, and like the enemy.
That'd
If
be
they-
really cool.
Because there's
Yo,
there's
bugger, over here.
system- yeah, there's a system where if you pull out a radio, that engages voice chat, but the enemies around you hear you,
Right.
so they'll come back.
Interesting.
And I thought that could be a thing. That's a shame that they've already confirmed it's not. That could be cool.
That's-
Someone mod it, please.
That is I mean, in all of the systems that matter, I would say that's probably a little bit further down. While that is really cool, that's like, I think,
No, I
down
get-
here for them. And I know they've addressed, I think 30's tweeted them about some things that were like extra systems that would be really cool, but they're like, I think we got to focus on the core stuff first, and then maybe get to some of
Right.
these secondary or even third systems that could really add depth to the game, like proximity aggro, you know, voice chat adding to proximity aggro, something like that. It could be a mod, right? All these things could be modded, I think. I don't know. I'm not a modder. I don't know shit about mods, but
It could be something as simple as like a stun or a provoke move, even like some sort of ability to just kind of be like, there's one, it's just called flash, where you just like flash, send out like this light, and then all these mobs come like target you off of everyone else that we have in fantasy. And they've said several times like they're MMO players or big game fans, so I'm thinking they are going to take a lot of inspiration off of that. So a lot of what we're speculating about, we can expect to see at least some of that get incorporated into the.
all right, let's pivot to another chat question here. This is from David the Great. David the Great. He says, "How do you think the alt versus will be like?" And I assume he just means like, what do you think the implementation of the alt versus will be? At this point, we have not seen anything outside of Orbis for the most part, and I don't think. My quick hot take on it is I don't think we will for quite some time. But does
No,
anybody have any hot takes on the alt versus?
I
Portals,
think it's going to be
no
sick.
space travel,
It's gonna
unfortunately.
be awesome. Future
Okay.
updates. Definitely.
All right,
I
let
think
me
they'll play off
get.
the dungeons
This
a
is
lot.
what happens when I just open the floodgates. Let me give you a more pointed question. Will alt versus be part of the hot take? It's not obviously confirmed. Livid, let's start with you. Do we think that alt versus will be part of the vanilla gameplay at launch? And if so, what will they look like?
I think maybe 1, maybe 2 will be part of the initial launch.
Okay.
I think they would reserve some other things for like future content pushes, because they said that their plan for this game is a 5 to 10 year plan,
Right.
for the game. So and that means more content, more things to explore. And if they're already saying like, hey, Orbis is this many zones, right? And they haven't even shown us all the zones yet.
Right.
If this is this many zones, they're gonna want other places to push more content. And I think alt versus is the perfect place to do that.
Right, and we know that these designers and concept artists, they plan long term. So
Yeah.
while they revealed that image to us, that could be their 15-year plan, right?
Right.
Yep.
So, Fezzy, hot take on alt versus.
So I think it depends. Actually, I think if they're, well, it depends. It depends on a lot of things. If we're talking beta or final product, because final product, if the alt versus take a part in the story, they're gonna all be there. But if it's beta, they might take a Subnautica approach, where the story is gradually unveiled to you throughout, updates, just like in Subnautica, which was actually pretty cool because the devs would sneak in something like a construction site where a monster was about to be dug up, and that's how it would technically be introduced to the world. And you wouldn't know that unless you played the game during its development. It depends on which route they take. I think it could be. Like I said, I think it depends. Either way, I think they can take creative routes to push them out, even if it's in development and they have to push them out over time.
All right, Knight, hot take on alt versus.
I definitely don't think that. Well, they have. I think they had like 4 proposed ones. I definitely don't think that all of those will be out. Maybe one upon release. But yeah, like Fezzy was saying, they've proposed 6 zones for just Orbis, and they haven't even unveiled 2 of them to us. So I think that their goal should be a game out, a functioning game out, and to be able to build on that later. And like you were saying, 5 to 10 year plan. Altverse is definitely very good way to expand on stuff. Way to introduce continual, gradual in-game content to get to the next level, get to the next stage, the next big boss that you couldn't take on before, exploring new zones, discovering new things. But I don't think that that's a priority that they should have, considering they want to get this game out. There's a lot of people that want this game, and they already have a lot on their plate already, so that's not something they should focus on tackling all at once.
Right.
Yeah, that's the perfect stuff for extra content.
There you go. 30.
Yeah.
Just to get everybody in here. Hot take on alt versus.
I think there'll probably be a little bit of implementation in the story itself, but I think it would be smart if they just kind of had, maybe it'd be neat if there was a story for all verse and they all maybe interconnected in some way, like a
that'd
deal
be cool.
type thing.
Perfect
Like
expansion.
maybe like bits and pieces of lore could be like thrown in there, referencing other alt verses, other stories that take place in the other areas. Again, I keep going back to Fallout New Vegas, but if you go in the Old World Blues DLC, there's all sorts of stuff that happens that's referenced in like Dead Money or in the Heart. Like there's references between the different DLCs talking about this major overarching story that you kind of uncover. So maybe it would be cool if each Altverse had a different story, but there were references, and you can almost tell what order events happened in if you're paying enough attention to what you're finding in these areas.
Gotcha. Yeah, just to add my quick hot take here, and I've mentioned this in a couple videos, I think. All versus, I'm in the camp of, and there it goes every time, just like clockwork. Anytime I start talking, it's absolutely ridiculous. I am the worst host ever. You know, all versus, I'm in the camp of, I don't think all versus will be a big part of launch. I think they got enough on their plate to deal with. I think the alt versus is part of their 10 to 15 year plan. What I do think they could do, and you guys kind of all mentioned it in one way, shape, or form, is have instant content bring us to an alt verse, just to give us a taste. If they're about to reveal an entire new zone or entire new world, they're going to bring us there before launch in a pre-launch event or pre-expansion event where we're going there just for a taste of it, just to get the player base that's there. Oh man, this is completely new zone. The color palette's different. The flora, the fauna, it's all different. It's more of a way to get players into new content or additional content. And I think we'll see a taste of that. I just don't think it will happen right at launch. So that's my quick hot take on that one.
The community hype would be insane if they did it that way.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Is that? I think I'm a little confused on the details. So like, the way that I'm picturing this is somewhat like a Fortnite thing, but not Fortnite because Fortnite bad. But like the way they implement content is genius. So let me explain. So like you said, they kind of tease it through an Ultraverse. The way that Fortnite does it is whenever a new update that's going to bring a lot of change comes by, players, this can be of course adjusted because Hytale's a single player too, but players get forced into this weird like area where they all experience new content jumping into the map pre-patch, and they jump in for a game. And the way I think Hytale could do that is maybe even on a multiplayer scale where there is an Ultraverse that maybe is dedicated to prototype stuff, and when players go in there, I mean, of course it'd be single player, but you can, it'd be hard, but I think it could be cool. Like it'd be a way to tease new stuff and you kind of experience it for a little while and maybe it closes or something.
Right.
I don't know. I think they could approach it in a million different ways.
I mean, if their team is big enough and the player base is big enough, can you imagine a game like Hytale saying, okay, everybody log in at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got something to show you with obviously all the lore. I'm not just saying they're going to put out a tweet like, hey, everybody log in for X, Y, and Z. It leads up to something. And then boom, we all experience this rollout event live together. You know, I don't.
Yeah.
I think that would be incredible. You imagine how much
That
stuff we'd have to
would
talk
be
about. Oh
awesome.
my gosh.
Yeah.
I couldn't put it in better
Oh
words. That's
my
exactly what Fortnite does. They give you a time and everyone tweets about it, logs
Yep.
on, streams that minute, and that would bring tons of a hype.
Call
for
off work, get ready.
Yeah, like that would bring tons of hype for it. I think that'd be so good.
Listen, by the time Hytale comes out, we're each going to have 1 million subscribers and followers. So we're going to shape the Hytale community with of course all of our friends that are in the chat, Canadian Flash, Quebec Corner, Fire. We're all just we're going to be the trendsetters. So they say show up at 2 p.m. We're going to show up. We're going to bring thousands of people with us.
We're
It's
gonna
gonna be
spread
good.
the love around.
Spread the love around, baby. All right, I love it. All right, let's talk about another thing. This is my question to you guys. I brought this up. I think I brought it up in the video. I can't remember. It was 4:00 in the morning when I made that video. The autumnal biome. Okay, or sorry, autumnal area. It's a biome. It's not a zone. It's part of Zone 1. The autumnal biome was not present in the World Gen map concept art from way back when. So they're introducing biomes that are not part of that original concept art. So do we think that we should be focusing so intently on that World Gen picture anymore? Or do we think that was a good starting point and they're just saying, okay, this gives you an idea, but there's a lot more coming?
Well, I think that's what they kind of implied, is that this is all work in progress and there's gonna be more. So like this, I think it was just a tease. I think it was just like, hey, this is like what we got going. Wait do you see what we do next, kind of thing.
Right. And how are they going to implement these biomes? We still don't know exactly how the World Gen is going to work in terms of from a player perspective. How do we think these biomes are going to, are they going to be an area on a map that every player is going to be able to find the same way? Are they going to be randomly scattered, kind of like a Terraria thing? How is this going to work?
Well, remember, points of interest too are going to be a factor, and I think that's going to play in a lot to environments, because that's going to add a factor that not really many other games that I've ever played have. So you can experience each area differently every time that you go.
Right, and we know it's not concentric circles, right? So you're just going to be exploring the world. It's going to be infinite, and then all of a sudden you're going to be in an, autumnal biome. But how do those worlds? How does Zone 1? And we still don't have the answer to this. How does Zone 1 interact with Zone 2? Does it start to bleed into Zone 2? Is it a hard line that's like, okay, Zone 1, boom, Zone 2? These are still questions that we don't have a clear picture for.
Right.
I think we can take a bit of a guess. Like they said, they showed this off back when they were showing off like the RGB paint stuff. The textures can melt.
Hey, cat number 3.
Hey, cat number 3.
Don't eat it.
Me.
Don't do it.
But I think like they mentioned, it can bleed textures together. So I think it'll be kind of like walking into a snowy area like you do in real life sometimes, where like it's kind of frosty a little bit, like little patches here and there, and then you walk in and then it starts getting thicker, I guess, like more snow, more frost, whatever, if you want to put it that way. I think it'll be pretty smooth, like transitionally.
Out of the two biomes that we saw, which one, and we'll go around quickly, which one did you guys like better? Did you like the Oasis or did you like the autumnal biome? 30, you start.
I mean, I don't know. I like all of it, to be honest. I'm more of
What a shill.
I'm more of the mechanics. What?
I said, what a shill.
So I'm more focused on the mechanics of the game. I think all of it looks pretty. But that's not really my focus, I guess.
All right, Knight, how about you?
I think both bring their own things into the game.
You know what? This is a terrible
on the
question.
same page.
This is a terrible question. This is all on me right now. That was a terrible question.
I got an answer that.
All right, Fezzy, go ahead. Save us.
Autumn. For the simple reason that okay, so I'm kind of. Did I just mute myself?
No, you're good. You're good.
No,
You're good.
So I'm kind of into the filmmaking scene a little bit, and
Eh.
yeah, people like when do people always take pictures of like trees and stuff?
The golden hour, baby.
The gold, the colors, the waterfalls. It's the sunsets. Autumn is going to be a very photocentric one. I think a lot of people are going to favorite it because of that. I know I'll be filming there for a lot of cinematic stuff. So I vote autumn.
Good. Livid, how about you?
I would vote Oasis personally.
Yeah, of course you would. You got to be different. Always got to be different.
Conflict.
Any particular reason why?
I like it particularly because the perspective that you can get in this. So like, say you're going through a forest and the in the first zone, right? And you see the autumn kind of transition. It's kind of like a natural feeling transition, right? But when you're in zone 2 and you're so used to everything being very stark, arid, there's just nothing around, and you kind of crest a ridge and you see a lot of plant life, you see animals in the game that will gather at that area, as they said. I think that's going to be a more interesting experience. That's why I think I like how that one looks better.
Right.
Just it invokes more of like a sense of discovery than something like the autumn biome does.
Right. And they did mention there is the harder to obtain resources in Oasis. Now, they didn't really mention that, confirm or deny that for the autumnal biome. But it is interesting to think of an area like the Oasis being a resource, and there it goes again, every time, a resource-rich environment, right? Going there, trying to seek out an oasis for those rare materials.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy that idea as well. All right. So another question from the stream, and we had no confirmations about this, but again, you guys are all together. Let's talk about it. How will Hytale combat cheating? Fezzy, as the guy who has not been on the stream, you clearly know a lot about technology and the way servers work and all that stuff. What is your hot take on
I feel like
how
I'm
they
talking
can...
so much.
No, please. I mean, you're the new guy on the stream. You have to talk the most.
So the way that I see Hytale, well, they've already kind of mentioned this. Hytale's going to be closed client side, which is already a step in the right direction, but so is Minecraft Bedrock, and guess who has cheaters? So I'm going to guess the way that they're going to approach it, and this is the best way, is legally. So Epic Games, I'm going to say Fortnite again, I'm sorry, but Epic Games actually can take people to court for cheating in their game, and they've threatened to do it before, and I think they even have before. If you cheat in our game, you're hurting our image, you're hurting our profits. That's how they kind of approach it, and I think their approach isn't going to be banning people. I think it's going to be saying, "Hey, you do this, it can be bad for you."
Yeah, legal action.
Yeah, like Hypixel kind of did it a little bit with X Turtle, and I think that's very much a good way to do it, because because a lot of people will buy alts, even because a lot of people mention that if it's paid for, it's going to fix it. No, it won't. Counter-Strike exists. That game used to cost money, and guess what? That game was terrible for cheating. So I think the best way to do it is through like TOS rather than just like banning somebody. That's my opinion, though.
Yeah,
that
and that actually
scares.
Yeah, I mean, it also scares people into not cheating, which is a good thing,
Exactly.
because no one likes a game where you have cheaters. Like, I mean, Minecraft has problems with that all the time. I log into Hypixel and playing a game of Bed Wars. Oh, look, here comes the guy flying on. I'm dead now. That's not enjoyable for anyone. So definitely a scare tactic. I don't think it's too harsh, because I don't think that games are made to be modded and played unfairly. So it just ruins the experience for other people. So I think that's a perfectly valid approach.
And there's plenty of countries that actually, as a whole, take legal action against people who cheat in games, because a lot of countries have esports at a more developed level than what we do in the US, and they take legal action very seriously against people who cheat. So I mean,
in the Overwatch community, it's very big to legally pursue, cheaters, especially if they're streaming.
Yeah.
All right, so we've been going for quite some time here. The longest stream we've ever done for Roundtable. We are not saying that we're running out of content, but let's just wrap this one up. They have kind of hit a reset button, right? We are days away from the 1-year anniversary of the trailer. Can we expect another big drop of content before the end of 2019, or did we just get it?
I think we got it.
I think we just got it.
I think we got it.
Yeah. I think there was
could surprise us, but I think we got
maybe
it.
Christmas, maybe they're going to be like, "Hey, here's a screenshot," but I mean, that's probably
Happy Christmas.
Right. There was a lot of speculation that the 1-year anniversary was going to be another big trailer. There are still a lot of questions hanging out there. The thing that I brought up to Noxie in that tweet was, hey, you mentioned all these job postings. Haven't seen any new job postings.
That's what I was about to bring up. Yeah, job postings.
Job postings
Haven't
has
seen
still
them at
not
all.
changed. I think we should put pressure on them to be a little bit more transparent about their behind-the-scenes stuff.
hire 30.
There you go. Thirtyvirus pitch. I think while all of this content is great, and this is my own little soapbox moment here, they didn't talk about the jobs. They didn't talk about those challenges that they faced behind the scenes. They just said they were facing challenges. I don't think we necessarily have the right. I don't think we have the right to any of it, but I think they should be transparent if there are challenges that could affect us as players, And one of those things, one of those promises was, hey, we're going to, release a whole bunch of jobs. That hasn't changed. I think the challenges be nice to get a little bit more in depth about what the challenges are that they face as a developer. I think that's one that's just interesting, and two, that gives us something to gauge our expectations on. And I think it's time to kind of say, I don't think that there's going to be a huge info dump again before the end of the year. I think we just got it.
And to the Hytale devs, boys, fellas, we understand. You can tell us if you're having trouble. I was talking to the Hytale devs, bro. Hang on, let me just get this out, right? Simon.
he's talking directly to you.
Simon, Noxy,
and Noxy.
Trust me, all right? We get it. It's hard, and it's harder than we could imagine. Tell us that. It's okay. You can whip out your phone and be like, yo, I don't know what's going on. Like, dude, it's tough. You can say that. It is totally fine. We are understanding people. Most people
that too.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go like, dude, I mean, even if you don't know the release date, like you claim not to, you can just say, hey, yo, like, bro, it's tough. I don't know when this game's coming out. Yeah. At least say that instead of just going 4 months, like, completely silent, right, posting out a thread of tweets, and then going another month silent.
Yeah,
and we're there to support you.
Yeah, and to be honest, and this is from a person that knows that they're going to play the game ultimately. I don't know how much they should or could tell us. I do want to know how the money is influencing their development. We know they have the backing from Riot. Okay, that is either a good thing or a bad thing, and I kind of want to know a little bit about that. Do you
mean like if they're in
not everything,
like creative?
I want to know how that affects them creatively. I don't want their boardroom making decisions that are going to impact us as players. I don't want EA. I don't want EA. And here's the thing. As a new content creator, new to the world, I think most of you guys at some point have gone through things. You try and please everybody, right? You try and please your audience. You try and please anybody that sends you an email. You try and please your Discord. These guys are going through the same thing as developers. They want to make sure that their investors are happy. They want to make sure their players are happy. I just want to know if their investors are more important than their players. And so far, the lip service has been that they're not, right? That the players are the most important thing. But I would love to see just a little bit more transparency on how that investment from Riot, how that interaction is influencing their creative. I don't think that's too much to ask. It's a little bold, but I'm just curious about it.
Doesn't have to be much. It just has to be like a general outline of where that's going, because of course that goes a lot into legal stuff and NDAs and all that. But yeah, just having a general, hey, this is how it affects us. Maybe even like if we're limited by that, if we're not limited by that, where does the creative freedom stand with this game now that we're being backed by these investors? And that just a little bit more transparency on that would be nice, if that's not too much.
Right. All right. Before we say goodbye, guys, we're going to go around the horn one more time. What is the big thing? Obviously, the game we know has a release target of 2021. What is the big thing that you are going to be looking out for in 2020? What is the one thing that you're like, this is what I want to see in 2020? Fezzy, we'll start with you since you're in the top left.
Oh, man. That's a big one.
That is a big one.
I would say everything, but she'll answer.
Wow,
so,
what a shill. Oh my gosh.
You know what? I'm anticipating for the most probably the combat system right now. Because we all know Minecraft Saturdays, Minecraft Championships, they're big right now. All right? And I want to see if that's possible in Hytale, because if Hytale takes Minecraft's PvP and makes it work, Hytale could be an esport. Hytale could be an esport, and that would be sick. Like an actual esport, like in tournaments, people go to stadiums. That would be sick. I want to see how that turns out.
HyCon.
Yep. HyCon.
That's an interesting term.
Knight, how about you? 2020. What do you want to see? What's the thing you're most looking forward to or looking out for?
I'm looking out for them to be more transparent with us, mostly about the content side of things. I want to see the nitty-gritty of what players playing, what we can expect, what we can dig our fingers deep into, how we can get involved into the game, like the food systems, crafting systems, alchemy systems, all that good stuff. I'm looking for them to be transparent with us with that, so we can kind of know what to expect, and then maybe even give them feedback on what we would like to see, or what we like or don't like about what they're working on.
Gotcha. 30, how about you?
In 2020, I'm thinking it would be pretty great if they gave us the ability to make. So maybe give out some access to the model maker, or maybe give developers access to some sort of creation tools to mod, or get some community, works to start to crop up, I guess. I don't know. It'd be a good way to keep us occupied if we.
Did anybody else just hear him cut
Say
out?
that last
completely?
sentence
Yeah, you
again.
just cut out.
Yeah, say that last part again.
Wait, what did I say?
It'd be a good way to. It'd be a good way to. Period.
Oh, it'd be a good way to keep us occupied if
Gotcha.
we could all make stuff for the game.
Yeah.
All right, Livid, how about you?
For me, I want to see elaboration on game systems to the point where we can directly give feedback. I would love for them to, here's like you put a blog post and there's maybe a poll incorporated directly into it. Maybe they have directions that they've been really, really struggling with deciding which direction they want to fully commit to. That'd be nice to have input and see how people would react to that. Not only for reason of that's the direction it'll go, but it gives the opportunity for people who will be creating mods and stuff like that to go maybe the other direction for the people that want to see that. So it gives them preemptive ability to design for those kind of things. And I think that'd just be a really nice thing for the community.
Yeah. And for mine, not to steal the spotlight for a second, I'm going off of what Platinum Fox said. Roadmaps are incredibly important nowadays in the gaming world, especially with content that is constantly developing.
Definitely.
I have been a huge critic of them in terms of their communication and their marketing. Their communication has to be on point in 2020. They don't need to keep us around, but they should for obvious, valuable reasons. So I love the idea of maybe dropping the model maker a little bit early, or maybe giving players a taste of something a little early. I think they do need to launch their Discord and their Reddit. I think they need to figure out the communication,
Definitely.
the moderation of those things before the game comes out. And I just think they need to get entrenched with the community. They need to actually embrace the community, not just saying that they love our tweets, love our videos, love our fan art. That is, while that's great, and we love highlighting that, that is not really being entrenched with the community and being part of the community.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us want to dictate how the game is. We want to see their vision of the game come to life, but we want to be able to say, hey, we don't think this is going to work. Take that for what it will. And the only way they're going to do that is by locking down their communication and really
So it all
figuring it
boils
out.
down to communication.
It always
I think
boils
that
down to communication.
Communicate.
is key.
Communicate.
I think the benefits of more communication far outweigh any negatives.
Agreed.
Oh yes,
Definitely.
100%.
100%. Yeah.
All right, guys. 4 of these guys just spent an hour and 45 minutes hanging out, talking about Hytale. If you are not already following Fezzy, Night of Doom, Black Plasma Studios, Thirtyvirus, LividLion, you need to go do that right now. Subscribe to each of their channels, follow them on Twitter, join their Discords, do all of those things, because if there's one thing I have been adamant about with this Hytale game, it's that our community is going to stay positive, we're going to stay strong, and we're going to help each other out. We're not going to turn into that catty BS community. So go support these guys.
My channel's better than yours.
You know what?
No.
Shut up. You're a jerk. You just shut your mouth.
This is where beef starts, dude.
This is where it starts right here.
You want to go square up?
This video will be, if you missed part of the video, we will be uploading this video probably on Sunday. I don't really know yet. It's going to be uploaded as a full video. You guys can watch it. I'll cut out the intro and the be right backs. These guys, of course, will be back for the next time Hytale content comes out. Leave your comments in the section below. All of that good stuff. Like, subscribe to all of this nonsense. My God, this rant gets so annoying every video. And as always, Fezzy, Knight, 30, Livid, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Had a great time, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the next roundtable.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys.
See ya.
My name is Kodiak,
see ya.
and from everyone here at the Game Gurus and the Hytale Roundtable, thanks for watching, and play on. Peace!
Take care.
Peace.
Thanks for checking out the video. If you want to learn more about the game or just want to be part of an incredible video game community, join the Game Gurus on Discord. Be the first to know what's going on with the channel and interact with me and the rest of the team on a daily basis. To join, check out the link below.